Laura had always been a successful woman. By the time she was 35, she had achieved almost everything she could ever want. A thriving career as an executive at a prestigious company, an elegant home in the city center, and a network of influential contacts. But behind the facade of success lay a growing sense of dissatisfaction. The glow of professional achievement could not illuminate the personal emptiness she felt. It was on a cold winter morning, as the gray New York sky seemed to reflect her emotional state, that Laura went to Dr. Campos' office. She was preparing for a routine appointment, one of those she usually took with indifference. However, this time, something seemed different. The weight of expectation was in the air. After a short wait, Laura was called in for her exam. Dr. Campos, a kind and experienced physician, began the conversation with a series of routine questions before moving on to the test results. Anxious Laura tried to maintain her composure, distracting herself with the sight of dry leaves swaying outside the window. It was then that Dr. Campos handed over the results and began to speak. The words came slowly, but with cruel clarity. "Laura, the tests have shown a serious problem. You have a terminal condition, and unfortunately, time is limited. We need to discuss your options and how you wish to proceed." Laura's world fell apart in an instant. The words sounded distant and almost unreal, as if they were part of a nightmare from which she could not wake. She struggled to breathe, feeling a mixture of shock, disbelief, and a deep pain she could not express. The consultation turned into a series of instructions and advice that Laura could barely process. She left the office without hearing the last of the recommendations, plunged into a haze of confusion. As she walked through the cold streets, Laura felt the city around her change. The hustle and bustle of traffic and the lively conversations of people seemed far away, as if she were in a parallel universe. The diagnosis was not only a blow to her health, but also a rupture in the narrative of her life. Everything she had built suddenly seemed insipid and empty. Her professional achievements, meetings, and awards all seemed to have no meaning in the face of the immensity of her new reality. At home, Laura lay in bed, her thoughts racing wildly. The future, which had once seemed like a land of opportunity and achievement, now appeared as a blank page, filled with uncertainty and fear. She was alone with her thoughts, unsure of how to share this new and painful truth with those around her. The first night after the diagnosis was marked by absolute silence and a weight of sadness that enveloped her like a cold blanket. In the days following her diagnosis, Laura spiraled into denial and despair. She avoided calling her friends and coworkers, isolating herself in her home. The daily routine that used to be an escape mechanism became unbearable. Every little detail, from the sound of the coffee maker to the messages piling up in her email, seemed amplified by her grief. Laura found herself unable to face her daughter, Julia, who had come to visit in the hope of spending time together. Julia, 20 years old and full of life, was greeted by a mother who could barely hide her anguish. Laura's attempt to maintain a facade of normalcy was painfully evident, and Julia felt the strain. One rainy afternoon, as sunlight filtered through the curtains, Julia asked the question Laura had been dreading to answer. "Mom, you look different. What's going on?" Laura hesitated, struggling to find the right words. The truth seemed cruel and unfair. Finally, with a trembling voice, she revealed to Julia the reality of the diagnosis. Julia's reaction was immediate: tears, shock, and a helplessness that Laura could not comfort. The two embraced in a moment of shared sadness, but the weight of the news seemed unbearable for both of them. In addition to the impact on her family, Laura found it increasingly difficult to cope with the expectations of her colleagues and supervisors. They noticed her absence and tried to reach out, but Laura found herself unable to keep up the conversations. Work, which had previously been a source of satisfaction, now became a constant reminder of her condition. She began to avoid meetings and social events, unable to explain her absence and the reason behind her sudden change. Over time, Laura began to reflect on her life and her choices. She revisited her childhood memories, her unfulfilled dreams, and missed opportunities. Her nights were filled with sleepless nights and disjointed thoughts. The realization that she had lost herself in a relentless pursuit of material success became painfully clear. The sense of emptiness in her life was no longer just an occasional feeling, but a constant presence that accompanied her every moment. The search for meaning became an obsession. Laura began to question the value of her existence and the legacy she would leave behind. The suffering was not only physical, but emotional and existential. From that point on, she began to consider radical changes in her life, searching for a way to find meaning and purpose before it was too late. Laura woke up on a cloudy morning, with the sky reflecting her state of mind. The weight of reality began to set in more forcefully. She realized that she needed to act, that her life was about to change radically, and that she had to do something to redeem the remaining time in a meaningful way. The decision to leave her job was not an easy one. Laura wrote her resignation letter, feeling each word as both an act of liberation and a profound blow. When she handed the letter to her boss, she was met with a mixture of surprise and concern. Her colleagues were confused and curious, but Laura knew it was the right time to step away and start focusing on herself. The first step in her new journey was to plan a series of trips she had always dreamed of taking. Laura began to draw up an itinerary that included exotic destinations and experiences that had attracted her over the years but had always been put off by work. She decided that her first stop would be Italy, a place she had always dreamed of exploring. It was a destination that evoked dreams of art, culture, and cuisine. With Giulia's help, Laura began planning her first trip. Giulia, though still devastated by the news, supported her mother with enthusiasm and dedication. The preparations for the trip became a shared project, providing a positive focus for both of them and creating a space to reconnect on a deeper level. During the planning, Laura and Giulia spent hours talking about their hopes and fears, discovering a new understanding of each other. In addition to traveling, Laura decided to invest her time in activities she had always wanted to try. She began volunteering, helping out at a local organization that provided support to people in need. This work gave Laura a sense of purpose and the opportunity to make a tangible difference in the lives of others. Seeing the positive impact her actions had on the community brought her a sense of relief and accomplishment that she had never felt before. With each step she took toward the new life she was building, Laura felt a mix of excitement and fear. The decision to radically change her life was accompanied by a profound sense of freedom. She began to embrace the idea that despite her limited time, she could still create precious memories and build a meaningful legacy. The process of moving was not without its challenges. Laura experienced moments of doubt and insecurity, especially when dealing with the reaction of some friends and colleagues who did not understand her decision. However, with Giulia's support and the growing satisfaction of her new experiences, Laura found the strength to move forward. She was determined to make the best use of the time she had left. Laura and Giulia arrived in Rome on a bright, sunny morning. The sun warmed Laura's heart, and she marveled at the grandeur of the ancient city. Her first impression was a mixture of amazement and gratitude. The trip promised to be the beginning of a new chapter, and Laura was determined to make the most of every moment. During the first few days, the two explored the most iconic sites, the Colosseum, the Vatican, and the Fontana di Trevi. Each visit was accompanied by a sense of wonder and a sense of personal accomplishment. Laura was enchanted not only by the beauty of the ancient ruins and works of art, but also by the possibility of creating meaningful memories with her daughter. One afternoon, while strolling through the narrow streets of Trastevere, Laura and Giulia came across a small cafe where they decided to take a break. Sitting at a table in the shade, Laura lay down to reflect on the transformation she was experiencing. She observed the people around her, locals and tourists alike, and felt part of a larger world, where her worries seemed small compared to the richness of human experience. In addition to sightseeing, Laura engaged in activities that represented her personal interests. She attended an Italian cooking class, where she learned how to prepare traditional dishes. The kitchen became a space for creativity and enjoyment, and Laura found herself experimenting with recipes and sharing her creations with Giulia. The laughter and aroma of freshly prepared food were a source of genuine joy for both of them. Another memorable experience was a visit to a small winery in the Tuscan hills. Laura and Giulia enjoyed a wine tasting and a tour of the winery, learning about wine production and the history of the region. The simplicity and authenticity of rural Italian life contrasted with the frenetic pace Laura had known in her previous life. This contrast helped Laura appreciate the beauty of everyday life and find a new way to enjoy the simple things. During their time in Italy, Laura also began to get involved in local volunteer activities. She helped out with a community project that supported refugees and immigrants. The work was challenging, but also deeply rewarding. Laura felt a real connection with the people she met, and the sense of contributing to something bigger than herself brought her unexpected inner peace. As the weeks passed, Laura and Giulia grew closer. The deep conversations and moments shared during the trip created a stronger bond between mother and daughter. Giulia, while still grieving her mother's condition, began to see Laura in a new light, not just as a sick mother, but as a woman who was seeking to live life to the fullest despite her circumstances. The trip to Italy was not just an escape, but a journey of self-discovery and transformation for Laura. Each experience was an opportunity to create lasting memories and find a new sense of purpose. Laura was beginning to realize that life, even with limited time, could still be full of beauty and meaning. The sun was low in the sky, turning the landscapes a soft gold as Laura, Giulia, and Carlos, Laura's close friend and former co-worker, embarked on one last meaningful journey. Their destination was a small coastal village in Greece, known for its spectacular views and tranquility. It was a place Laura had always wanted to visit, and it seemed like the perfect setting for the conclusion of her journey. The journey was marked by a sense of urgency and depth. Laura, aware of her condition, knew that this would be one of her last opportunities to create memories with those she loved most. The stunning landscape of the village, with its white houses and blue sea, provided a perfect backdrop for the moments that were to come. During the first few days, the group explored the village, walking along cobblestone streets and visiting small shops and local markets. The beauty of nature and the calm of the environment provided a sense of peace that Laura deeply valued. Each day was lived with a renewed intensity, and Laura made sure to capture each moment in photographs, trying to preserve these precious memories. One evening, while the group was having dinner at a seaside tavern, Laura and Giulia had a heartfelt and emotional conversation. Laura expressed her desire to leave a legacy for Giulia and to share with her the importance of living a meaningful life. Giulia, with tears in her eyes, thanked Laura for all the experiences and for the unconditional love she had always given. This moment of vulnerability and connection was a highlight of the trip, marked by a feeling of gratitude and deep love. During the trip, Laura's health began to deteriorate. She began to experience intense pain and fatigue took over her body. The difficulty in staying active and the increasing need for medical care became evident. Laura, with admirable strength, tried to keep her spirits high and continue to enjoy her time with Giulia and Carlos. They found ways to adjust their plans to accommodate Laura's condition, prioritizing moments of rest and relaxation. The climax of the trip came on a quiet afternoon when Laura decided to take one last walk along the beach at sunset. With Giulia and Carlos by her side, she walked slowly along the sand, feeling the sea breeze and the warmth of the sun on her face. It was a moment of reflection and acceptance, where Laura faced her own mortality with quiet dignity. She spoke of her hopes for Giulia's future and left a message of encouragement and love. Returning to the village and preparing to say goodbye was marked by a sense of fulfillment and peace. Laura knew that despite the hardships, she had lived life to the fullest and created memories that her daughter and friend would cherish forever. The journey had been a journey of transformation and acceptance, and Laura faced her final days with a sense of having fulfilled her purpose. Laura and Giulia returned home from their trip to Greece, bringing with them a wealth of memories and experiences that had profoundly transformed their lives. Laura's home, once a refuge from routine and work, now became a space for introspection and acceptance. The environment was marked by the presence of Giulia, who was determined to honor her mother's legacy and preserve the lessons learned during her journey. Laura was becoming increasingly weak. Her moments of lucidity were interspersed with periods of weakness and pain. She spent most of her time in bed, surrounded by photos of her travels and gifts she had received from friends and family. Giulia, who had become her caregiver, made sure to make her mother's final days as comfortable and meaningful as possible. Their conversations were often filled with memories and reflections on life. In a moment of clarity, Laura asked to speak with Julia and Carlos. They sat together in the living room, the soft evening light creating a serene atmosphere. Laura shared her final thoughts, speaking about the importance of living fully and the need to find beauty and meaning even in the most challenging moments. She expressed her love and gratitude for Julia and Carlos, emphasizing the positive impact they had on her life. The night that followed was peaceful and full of contemplation. Laura felt a deep sense of peace, as if she had finally found complete acceptance of her fate. Julia spent the night by her mother's side, holding her hand and talking about the happy times they had shared. The words exchanged were a comfort and a confirmation that the love Laura had given and received was eternal. The next morning, Laura had a final meal with Julia and Carlos, a simple but meaningful meal. Breakfast was an opportunity for another intimate conversation, where Laura gave her final words of advice and encouragement. She spoke about the importance of continuing to seek happiness and fulfillment, even after her departure. Laura passed away peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by love and serenity. Her passing was marked by a sense of complete acceptance and tranquility. Julia and Carlos were by her side, grateful to have had the chance to accompany Laura on her final journey and to have been part of a story of transformation and love. Grieving was a challenging process, but it was also filled with moments of celebration of Laura's life. Julia and Carlos organized a memorial in Laura's honor, where friends and family gathered to share stories and memories. The event was a tribute to the vibrant and meaningful life Laura had lived and the indelible mark she left on all who knew her. Laura not only faced her condition with courage and dignity, but she also turned her final journey into an inspiring example of how to live life to the fullest, even in the most difficult circumstances. Her legacy would continue to inspire those she loved to seek beauty and fulfillment in every moment of their own lives. Laura's passing left a deep void in Julia and Carlos' lives, but it also brought a new perspective on her life and the legacy she left behind. The memorial in Laura's honor was a time of reflection and celebration, where friends and family shared stories that highlighted the generosity, passion, and determination Laura brought to every aspect of her life. Julia, touched by her mother's strength and spirit, decided to dedicate herself to causes that Laura had supported and that resonated deeply with her. She began working with volunteer organizations and getting involved in charitable projects, continuing the work that Laura had started. Julia's passion and dedication to making a difference in the world was a direct reflection of the impact her mother had had on her. Carlos, in turn, decided to create a project in Laura's honor. He launched a foundation that offered support to people with serious health conditions and their families, helping to provide a more dignified and meaningful life during the challenges they faced. The foundation became a center of hope and help, fulfilling Laura's desire to do good and touch the lives of others in a positive way. Laura's life, marked by her courage and resilience, became a source of inspiration to everyone around her. Her friends and family began to apply the lessons they learned from her to their own lives. Stories of her journey and the ways she faced her challenges were shared widely, making a lasting impact in the community and beyond. Julia often revisits the places Laura loved and that were important to her travels. These places, now filled with cherished memories, serve as a constant reminder of the importance of living a full and meaningful life. Each trip and moment shared with Laura has become an essential part of her own journey of self-discovery and personal growth. Laura's legacy has also influenced the way those around her approach their own lives and challenges. The lessons of courage, acceptance, and love she left behind continue to inspire and motivate others to seek beauty and purpose, even in the most difficult situations. Laura's story is a testament to the power of personal transformation and the ability to face adversity with dignity and love. Her life and legacy stand as a testament to the importance of seizing every moment and making a positive impact on the world. Laura's memory, with her strength and generosity, continues to light the way for those who seek to live fully and face their own journeys with courage and hope.